Welcome to the Raising Confident Girls podcast, where we dive deep into the real stuff so that you can raise strong, confident daughters. We all know how difficult it is to grow up as a girl in this world. Today, more than ever, girls are feeling overwhelmed, anxious, and confused. And as caregivers of girls, you are also feeling overwhelmed, anxious, and confused. That's why I'm here, to help you feel confident as we all help raise confident girls. I started Girls Positivity Club after over 20 years as a teacher because I saw the importance of having a place where you feel like you belong and can get the tools you need to navigate your challenges today. And that's what this podcast is for you, your regular check-in with that trusted friend who gets it, sharing insights and equipping you with tools for meaningful conversations and tips you can use immediately. I'm your host, Melissa Jones, helping raise a generation of confident girls. It's time to dive in, so let's go. Hi everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm so happy you're here today. If it's your first time or you've been several times, thank you for spending this time with me each week. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you're gaining lots of value from these episodes. And I'll say that every week because it is true, and you could be spending your time lots of different places, and you're choosing to spend your drive or your walk or wherever you are with me. So thank you for that. And I'm excited because I finally have been able to not wear bandages on my nose. So I don't think I've mentioned this on the podcast, but I did have some skin cancer on my nose that I had removed. And so it feels really great that it's healing and I'm now able to not wear bandages. And, it brings up the topic today of body image. And I think it's very common, especially for women and girls, to think about their bodies, and whether it's something on your face like mine was. I was feeling very self-conscious because, my nose was still like red and swollen and all the things. And I felt very self-conscious about that. So it could be something related to their appearance in some way. If you're thinking of your daughter or the girl in your life, it can also be a lot of times weight. And this doesn't always mean that they may feel too heavy. It could also be girls who are worried about how skinny they are or how they may not be developing the way that their friends are. So this brings up the topic today of your daughter may be worried about her body, self-aware of her body changing. And really, this is very common. And it's something that a lot of times they're not always comfortable talking about because it can feel embarrassing. And even though I know that you, whether you're a mom or dad or auntie or whoever you are, you're providing those safe spaces for your daughters to have open communication, hopefully. I'm sure you are if you're listening to this, or you want to. I think sometimes we mean to, but sometimes things can kind of get away from us. And so I'm here to help you with that. So I remember when I was growing up, my body not being my friend. I did not feel good about my body. I felt I hated it. And I would always find something wrong with it. I would either think my legs were too big or my stomach was too fat, or I didn't like my face in this certain way. And why did my nose look like that? Or why did my chin do this? And I had, just all the things. And I think mainly this really comes to a head when girls start puberty. And I really hesitate to give an age range on this because girls are starting puberty and going through it a lot sooner than maybe when you were growing up. And for me anyway, when I was growing up, it was more of my kind of 12-year-old and on age. But girls today are, starting their menstrual cycles much earlier. And so it really just does depend on the girl and their bodies. And what I would do is even stand in front of the mirror and just pick apart everything I didn't like about my body. And it was really damaging to my own self-image of who I thought I was and what I thought I looked like. And to me, I already was struggling with that inner chaos of not feeling good enough. And I used my body as proof that, yep, on the outside, I'm ugly, I'm, fat, I'm not as blank as so-and-so. And I would do a lot of comparison. And it feels very uncomfortable to even talk about it because it's like, how could you do that to your body? But I think that there are a lot of factors that go into play with girls' bodies. And if you think about it, you know, what I hear from girls and even my Girls Positivity Club leaders, I was just talking to one this morning, and she said one of the most powerful lessons in our curriculum of what we teach the girls was on body image. And this was with the middle school age girls. So this was ages like 11 to 13. And she said that they were very inspired and they were also very aware of how all of them had feelings about their bodies. And I think sometimes as women or as girls, it can feel like you're the only one that feels this way or that there's something wrong with your body. And I think that's a secret fear that girls have growing up, that a lot of girls, I'm not saying every girl, but a lot of girls don't want to admit that they don't feel good in their own skin or they don't feel as pretty as someone else. And even though we can tell them all day long that it's on the inside what counts, the way they feel about themselves on the outside does matter too. And that doesn't mean that they have to look a certain way. And I think there is a lot of pressure for girls. It was for me even growing up and today, with looking a certain way and knowing what they view as beautiful. I was working with a girl a couple weeks ago and we were talking about this, and it was a very hard conversation for her to have with me. This was a one-on-one private conversation. And I asked her, is there a part of your body that, we also talked about positive things, but I was like, is there something that has been concerning you? Because this was an issue that she wanted to talk about. And she said her stomach. She wondered why she didn't have a flat stomach. And I think it's hard for them to say out loud because they know that in life, does it really matter who has an exact flat stomach? And, does that really mean true beauty and all that stuff? But I think they secretly wonder, like, why isn't my stomach flat? And why is my friend skinnier than me? Or why am I skinnier than everyone else, and everyone else seems to have their chest is developing and they're getting curves and I look like a boy. And it's all these kind of hidden worries that they often have that are hard for them to say out loud. And so there's an image of what they're supposed to look like in their own minds. And I think we need to ask our girls, what do you think is pretty? Like, what do you, now that's not the main thing. Let me be clear. That doesn't mean that we're instilling in our girls that looks are the most important thing. On the inside and who they are and their character and all of that, of course, is the most important thing. And also reinforcing that all shapes and sizes are beautiful. But I also think it's really important for you to ask her and to ask her even to show you people that she follows or people that she views in the world as beautiful, or as an ideal body type or whatever, just so you get the insight, not because you're trying to make her pick an ideal and in someone that she should look like, because she really should look like herself. And she can be all different sizes and all different shapes, are beautiful. And I think that they are really afraid to talk about it because it feels wrong to them. Like they know that it really doesn't matter, but at the same time, they also care about it. And they also wonder, like, why is my body different than so and so's? And so, you know, just making it normalized of like, we can talk about these types of things. You don't have to be embarrassed. I've gone through it too, especially if you're a mom. And, it's like girls are afraid that their bodies are going to stay the same their whole life. Like, oh my gosh, am I always going to look like this? Or what if I don't always look like this? There are those things that come up for them. So these are some common problems that come up for girls is, they're afraid to talk about it. They're embarrassed to say out loud how they really feel. They feel like it'll never change, or they wonder like, why is my body doing this? And also it especially happens, I've heard girls say this a lot, when they're with their friend groups and the girls start talking about weight. And we all know that weight's just a number, and some people are more obsessive about their weight and the number on the scale. I personally got rid of my scale because I just go by how I feel and how my clothes fit. And my weight fluctuates, and that's something that I've needed to accept, and that's okay. But I think talking with your girls about things like that, about how it's not really a number on the scale. I remember weighing myself one time and I was so scared because I had gained weight. I thought I had gained weight. And I went to the bathroom, like just normally, and like weighed myself again, and it was like just that I hadn't gone to the bathroom. So it's really silly. And that's when I was like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. I need to get rid of a scale because I'm starting to obsess and notice that. So we want to avoid that with our daughters and our girls in our lives earlier on so that they don't get obsessive about certain things, and they look for the good in their bodies. And so, going back to the idea of the friends getting together, it's like, a girl described to me how her friends were all kind of picking apart their bodies together and being like, oh, my arms are too fat, or I have this part around my belly, and oh my gosh, I weigh 85 pounds. I can't believe I'm so fat. And maybe your daughter knows that she's bigger than the other girl. And it's like in that moment, she feels really small. And I don't know why girls do that. Sometimes it's like, I think some girls want the reassurance from their friends, like, oh my gosh, no, you're beautiful. You're like a perfect size. I wish I had your body. And it's like some girls are just looking for that validation from their friends and from other people, which, means that they should work on some self esteem things for sure. And, obviously. But I think the girl who's standing there looking at the other girls who are complaining of feeling fat, knowing that she's bigger is an issue, and it's, I think in that moment the girl doesn't know what to say. And it's like, I know I'm bigger than these girls, and they're avoiding saying anything about me. They're just looking at themselves and sucking their stomach in and turning sideways and doing whatever. And as much as I hate to say that this still happens, it definitely does. And it's really making these conversations normalized, and giving your daughter the courage to be like, well, I feel strong in my body. I know I'm not the same size as you all, but I think we're all beautiful in our own ways. And like making a statement is so, so powerful. And the more we can give girls the courage to say things like that to their friends, which is a super high risk for them, and give them the confidence and support to do that and to really believe it, is the outcome that we're all looking for, right? Is for our girls, and whether they're bigger or smaller or whatever in between, there's beauty in all sizes, and to help them see that as much as we can. So you may be asking, what can I do to help this? So, if you've listened to the podcast before, I love an acronym because it helps you remember these things easier. So the acronym that I came up with today is called Be Careful. Now that doesn't mean like, maybe it does mean caution, but it's like showing care, like be careful about this topic, this conversation. So the B, it stands for open communication. So I've touched on that a little bit. It's having these open communications, whether it's the mom, the aunt, the dad, whoever the caregiver is for this girl, not being afraid to have these conversations. And this doesn't mean, what do you not like about your body? It doesn't mean it has to go in that direction, but it could be more about normalizing. If you notice that she's wearing baggier shirts, or you notice that she's kind of, you can just tell with your girl, when there's a change, or when she starts developing a little bit, you can say something like, how are you feeling about these changes? I've noticed you've been wearing baggier shirts. Are you wanting to feel comfortable, or what, whatever. You can ask her like a very open-ended question, like, how are you feeling about these things? And I think you may be surprised by the answer. Sometimes they'll say fine, and that's fine. And you can just reassure her, like, I'm here for you if you ever want to talk about that, or you ever have questions about changes that might be, going on with your body. And even though they may not like the body conversation talk, you can make it a normal part of checking in with her. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be just a you noticing how she's feeling, and just checking in and just forcing yourself to have that conversation too, and being open to it and asking if she's open. I always come back to that. Then the E would be educate. So this kind of goes along with it. She may not understand what's going on with her body. She may not understand why she doesn't have, her breast developing and her friends have, she might call them big boobs and she doesn't know why she doesn't. And so it could be about that. It could be about the flat stomach situation. It's like not everybody naturally has a flat stomach, and some people do. I know that I have cousins who just naturally are thin and have a flat stomach at all times. And my body's not built that way, and that's okay. And there are ways to help with that, and if she wants to make changes in her health and things like that, that's very different than telling her that she could always go on a diet. I think that's very dangerous to tell girls, because diet culture can get so out of control, and it's about supporting her and educating her in those positive, healthy ways that she can take care of her body. And if there is a certain area of her body that she wants to improve, that's okay, but it doesn't have to look like another girl's. And if you do have a little meat on your stomach, or your arms are a little bigger, or whatever it is, then that's okay too. It doesn't have to be like everyone else's. So educating her on that and asking her about her expectations and why she feels that way is really good. So offering her support and helping her understand what's going on with her body is really important. And I think that we need to normalize how we talk about bodies with girls and not avoid it until something goes wrong, or just assume that she's fine. Never assuming that things are wrong or she has anything to worry about, but just keeping an eye on it and checking in with her about it as you notice changes, for sure. And then the C, and be careful, is cultivating that body positivity. So instead of focusing on her size or her weight, focusing on how strong her legs are, or her internal qualities, what a great friend she is, or things like that, how tall she's getting, or how anything. I mean, you can fill in the blank with anything that is, but avoiding that negative language. And when you hear her talking about her body in a negative way, not necessarily scolding her for it, but just asking her like why she feels that way, and helping her pick something about her body that she does love. And it might be her eyes, it might be her hair, it might be something else. Or instead of focusing on body, like I said, focusing on those internal qualities that make her beautiful on the inside, and also that her body is beautiful just the way it is, and really accepting that her body is going to go through different stages, and it's all beautiful, even though it may not always feel that way. And then the other is avoiding negative language. So avoiding that negative language about your own body. And I think that this is really common with moms. I think about a friend that I had, and she has a daughter, and her daughter at the time was like 11 years old. And my friend was in the bathroom and she was getting ready, and she wasn't feeling good about her own body. And she was kind of, you could just tell by the way she was holding her body. And she was like, I just feel so fat. And she didn't realize her daughter was standing there. And her daughter was watching her kind of pick apart her body and say that. And she said she felt so embarrassed because she didn't want her daughter to pick up on her bad habits. And she did also struggle with her own body image. So it's in that moment being like, I know I said that, and I know I'm really not, or I'm feeling really bloated right now because whatever, or, I shouldn't have said that about my body. Will you help me pick something about it that's good, whatever, and do that together. Not that you're expecting your daughter to, you know, solve your own body images, but I'm saying having that normalized conversation of like, I shouldn't have said that about myself. And I think we all do that. Like we all feel or pick apart our bodies at times, and it's being honest about that. Like, hey, I've done that too, and it doesn't make me feel better about myself. and thinking about it like a best friend. Would you pick apart your best friend's body, or would you go to your daughter and point out all these negative things? Of course not. That would not be the right thing. So we don't want to do that to ourselves, and we want to model that as much as possible. Doesn't mean that you never want to change anything about your body, but you're very aware of the way it's coming across to your daughter. As you're not hating your body, you're taking care of it, and you're wanting to do some different habits maybe to change your health, and making it to where it's not so focused on appearance, even though, yes, of course, if you take better care of yourself, your appearance is going to change. But it's like finding that, I don't want to say balance, but finding that both sides of, yes, you should feel good in your body, but it doesn't have to look like this idealized version that feels so far out of reach. It can be something that fits you, and it doesn't have to mean that you're super skinny or whatever that would be to your daughter or to you. The other is reinforcing healthy habits. So this is tied in with avoiding the negative, is like not punishing yourself or your daughter for having cookies, or making comments about, I remember my dad made a comment one time when I was in my teen years. I was getting some Oreos out of a cookie jar, and he was like, "Have another cookie, chubby." And he was joking, but it really hurt me because I was already struggling with my body at that time. And I did want a cookie, and it's okay to have cookies. It's just that you don't want to have cookies all the time. So, meaning several times a day or something like that. Like, it doesn't mean you have to restrict yourself completely, but I think it's not making food bad. Making food more neutral is like, yeah, there are going to be days when maybe you eat some junk food, but the next day you do better, and you don't punish yourself for it. You don't have to do hours of exercise to make up for it, or tell yourself you're terrible for having those cookies. It's like, have the cookies. And then if you want to do better tomorrow, just try better tomorrow. Eat some fruit instead. Fruit's still sweet or whatever. So it's having those conversations about healthy foods, and how you don't have to restrict yourself, definitely not starve yourself all the time to lose weight, or do things, take pills to lose weight, or do those things that can be very harmful to girls that are growing up and their bodies changing and in natural ways. And not making exercise like a punishment, like, oh, I ate this stuff, so I have to work out for hours. No, you should move your body regularly, and that can look lots of different ways. And there are going to be days where you run out of time, and you don't have to, beat yourself up or make yourself feel horrible about it. That can just happen sometimes. And just normalizing that and helping reinforce, like, you want to get enough sleep, you want to move your body every day if you can, and you want to eat foods that are good for your body. And also, you can have treats. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. So just having those conversations and normalizing it in your family, I think, is a really powerful thing. And then also, if you notice that it's becoming, a problem, then taking note of that, and having a conversation about it with her. The E is for empower her. So this is empowering her to take care of herself. So again, tying back to that reinforcing healthy habits, it's using that as empowerment and really making herself feel strong and good about herself. What are the things that you like to eat that make you feel really good? What are the things that make you feel bad when you eat them? Like, not bad in a punishment way, but like, if you eat a bunch of junk food all day, you're probably not going to feel great or sleep great that night. So what could be a good balance of when you eat those things, or when should you move your body that works for you, things like that. And just using it more as empowerment, and like, this is a way you can really feel strong about yourself and really feel good about yourself. It's not the only way, but it is another way if we're talking about your body specifically. And then the F and be careful is finding help. So if you notice that this is becoming a problem, you're noticing like some body dysmorphia where she's looking in the mirror and she's not seeing herself as the way she really is. Like, she's having a lot of issues with like always thinking she's way bigger than she is, or like, look at my arms. Like, I've heard of girls that have worn things that have, taped their legs, or they've just made themselves do like kind of extreme things to look thinner. And that's what we want to avoid, right? Is our daughters feeling like they have to do those things. And then if she's hiding food, if she's starving herself, if she's um, going to the bathroom and getting sick after she eats, like those are all big warning signs to get professional help. And there are lots of really good therapists and food specialists and just people out there, psychologists who can help with that. So just noticing, if you notice you're like, this seems like a bigger problem than just regular adolescence, and reaching out to a professional and seeing if you can get a consultation and see if she needs a little bit of extra support in that area is always good. And then that the you and be careful is understand and offer her reassurance. So instead of being dismissive about her feelings or just saying like, oh, you'll grow out of it, like no big deal, it's fine, don't worry about it. I think we mean well when we say things like that, but it can come across as you're not really hearing how she's feeling and not really understanding her. So using that supportive language of like, I understand how you feel with your body changing like this, like it does feel uncomfortable, it does get better, and look at all these great things about you, and I love you unconditionally no matter how you look, and I want you to feel that way too, like knowing that you're such a great person and you have all these great qualities, going into that. And of course a hug is always good. And so reassuring her and understanding what she's going through and supporting her in that, like, I get why you feel this way. I completely understand. Just know that it will get better. Is there anything that you just want to get off your chest about it? And that helps open that space for her. The L and be careful is love her unconditionally. And I feel like that this is a no-brainer, but I think we assume sometimes that they know these things, or like we'll love them no matter what size they are, no matter what they look like, and no matter what they do, like we always love them. And just saying that to her is so important, that you love and accept her no matter what. And her body's going to go through changes just like yours has. It's not like you can give the example, you don't love me any less if I'm skinnier or heavier or have a pimple on my face or whatever. We love each other no matter what. So just reinforcing that with her, even if you think it's really obvious, and saying that out loud to her, I think is another super powerful thing to do. So that is be careful. And those are showing care to your daughter about supporting her through changes in her body. And the possible outcomes to this, like the positive outcomes, are you're going to help her by doing some of these things, increase her self esteem. She is going to know that she's supported no matter what she looks like, And I really didn't talk a lot about social media, which I think we really need to be aware of what she's viewing and what she's seeing on her social media feed, if she is old enough to have a phone or you've allowed her to have a phone, and knowing that that can really tap into her some insecurities with body image. And so just letting her know that if ever anybody is making her feel bad about her body by seeing all these like skinny models or whatever it would be in social media, reminding her that she can unfollow those people or mute them. Same thing with filters, reminding her of filters, and that those filters are not real. And the way that people pose is not real in the way their body looks all the time. So just making her aware of that and looking at other things, taking a break from social media if it's causing her a lot of harm in that way, and just having her show you what she's following, like who she's following. There are a lot of really good though body positivity people, so maybe helping her find more of those people to follow if you're allowing social media. There is a lot of good social media out there, of course, with caution. We never want them to become obsessive about it or things like that, like taking breaks and doing other things too. So getting back to that can take away from their self-esteem, but what we want is an increased self-esteem. So taking a pause on those things or avoiding it altogether if it's not making her feel good about her body is so important. So having these conversations, doing these things with your daughter does provide her with that support to help her self-esteem continue to develop in a positive way. The other one is healthy body image. That's really what we want for our girls. We want them to know that no matter what shape or size they are beautiful in their own unique way, and they don't have to look like anyone else. Even though, yes, they want to look their best and feel good about themselves, but that's different for every person. So it's normalizing that and helping her feel good about who she is, no matter if she feels like she's a little bit heavier or too skinny or whatever it is. that she's beautiful the way she is, and she doesn't have to do extreme things to feel good about herself. She can have a healthy body image and feel strong and healthy the way she is at this moment. And and we want to support her in those types of things. And then the last one is improved mental health. So anytime you can support her in any of these things, it's going to improve her mental health. It's going to help support her having less feelings of anxiety and worry about her body, especially as swimsuit season's coming up, helping her choose clothes that make her feel good in her body, and that she doesn't have to hide. She doesn't have to only wear certain things. Like, she can wear things that she feels good about, that are appropriate for her age, and that you feel good about too. And it's helping her find those things, especially in a swimsuit, as we're coming up on swimsuit weather. And so that's really going to contribute to her body image, to how she feels about herself, and knowing that she is enough exactly how she is. And I know that you want to support her in this journey. If you have any tips that have helped you have good conversations with your daughter and supporting her and her body changes and her body image, please feel free to share those with me. I'm happy to do another episode on this in a different way in the future. And if you have other topics for me, please feel free to send me a message on social media, Girls Positivity Club, or an email. And until next time, keep raising those confident girls. And share this episode if you think it'll help any other parents out there. Have a great week ahead. Thanks for joining another empowering episode of the Raising Confident Girls podcast. Share today's insights with caregivers and friends, building beautiful relationships with strong girls. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're not just a podcast, we're a community. Follow Girls Positivity Club on social media for more empowering content on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. This podcast empowers you, supporting incredible girls. Let's create strong, beautiful relationships with the girls in our lives. I appreciate you listening today. Stay confident, stay connected. Until next time, keep raising those confident girls. You've got this.